All right, welcome back. This is the second shift. This is the second show of the day. I'm hoping that people will jump on the panel and we can talk watches or we can talk whatever. In either case, I have something in the pocket, as I always do. Sotheby's has a pretty interesting auction coming up in Hong Kong at the end of the month that will kick off the series. So we can always talk about that. But by and large, I just want to talk. I just want to talk about watches, and we can talk about a bunch of other things as well, as you wish. I ended the last stream talking mostly about the Spurs, and that's Tottenham Hotspur, of course, not the San Antonio Spurs, because I don't know anything about basketball to talk about it. And we have also talked about a little bit about shoes, and I was somehow referring to Alden shoes in particular and where you can get them. Of course, you need to know your size, but there's always a bunch of great deals in on eBay whenever it comes to that kind of stuff. And there's always the Shoe Mart for everything else. And I think what really recommends Shoe Mart is, of course, their return policy more than anything. Their pricing might not be particularly special, but they have a great return policy. So as long as you try things on and figure out your size with the help of some of these online sellers, you should be in good stead. And that was Evan who was asking, of course, about that particular brand. But again, hey, the channel is called Watches and Style. So if you have any questions on men's style, on any of these kinds of items, it can be about, of course, bespoke stuff, made to measure kind of stuff, but also about thrifting, about shoes, about sports jackets, about other kinds of items and accessories. I'm always happy to help. I was taking a look at some of the selections. Speaking of the conjunction of watches and men's style, I'm increasingly impressed by how well the watch selection is put together at the Real, which is, of course, kind of a high-end consignment store. And when it comes to their pricing on clothing, it's not necessarily the most attractive, right? If you know your way around thrift, if you know your way around real thrift stores, there's nothing special about this kind of stuff. And they mostly focus on hype. Whereas, I don't know who is ultimately responsible for it. I think the specific branches do have their own managers when it comes to watches. They can move around the stock from one branch to another. So whatever they have in the case, say in Chicago, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Brentwood, in Austin, Texas, it will be somehow influenced by the person who is actually running or managing that particular department. But in general, I always find that they have a very nice selection and very competitive prices. And I think that has a lot to do with their attempt to probably disrupt the watch market. realizing that they don't necessarily have a lot of pull or a lot of clout, a lot of recognizability when it comes to selling watches. So essentially, they are trying their best to break down the competition by offering good prices, and that can only be good for the customer. Again, I do think that we should wait when it comes to these sorts of watches for the market trends to come all the way down. And again, no one quite knows how much lower things can fall. I think by now everyone has to come to terms with the trend, which testifies to a lot of prices having completely halved. So we have gone well past the days when the gray market profiteers were insisting on just a 20% drop, which they termed a correction. Nowadays, we can completely talk about a crash, and even the worst hype men of this kind of stuff online, all these gray marketeers that have their YouTube channels, have to contend with that reality. Of course, there are always great vintage watch traders, vintage watch dealers, secondary market dealers who have always focused as widely as possible, who have cultivated their expertise through decades, who don't necessarily bank on one or two brands and one or two models and buy dozens of them, right? There are people who make a living out of these things, and they're easily writing out even a crash. I'm talking about people like Eric Wind, who has Wind Vintage in Palm Beach, Florida, for example. And that trade show is going on right now in Miami. Of course, it's one of those yearly events that attract a lot of the secondhand watch dealers nationwide and even globally. I'm also talking about Cherry Creek Watch Co., for example, another friend of mine, Alex Grimberg, who runs that brand out of Denver, Colorado, and more recently, Beverly Hills, California. But by and large, a lot of that overhyped trends, a lot of those hype watch trends, a lot of that overpriced price gouging trends, where some of these backpack dealers struck certain agreements with authorized dealers who were doing shady business through backdoor deals, and who were selling watches in current production for 2-3 times their MSRP. That's going to calm all the way down. Things are coming back to reality already, but especially when it comes to these sorts of niche pieces like this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Day Date with the moon phase that the collectors affectionately call the owl because of the aesthetic of the watch, the particular look of the watch. It's going to come back to levels where they were before the pandemic. And that for this kind of model was like low to mid 20s, for example. And this piece was already at 30,000 in the real. So we are almost coming back to reality when it comes to these sorts of pieces. And I do want to, again, add this. I think in many ways, again, I don't want to turn this into a, Gérald Janta adoration and worship channel, even though it's a Moodstream and I can do whatever I want. In many ways, the original design of the Royal Oak is just perfect, right? The 39 millimeters, people don't choose those sorts of numbers just because, right? It is an element of the design, and it's perfect as it is, right? It doesn't have to be made smaller or larger. However, there's something to be said about these complicated Royal Oaks or reduced size Royal Oaks from a certain era, from the 80s, from the 90s. This is an 80s piece that you can recognize from even the font itself and the fineness of the tapisserie decoration of the dial. They are very elegant. In a way, the Royal Oak is the kind of design that is almost the perfect juxtaposition of the sleekness, the discreetness, the elegance of a dress watch, and the brutally modernist and even industrialist, utilitarian aesthetic of a sports watch, right? And when you have a Royal Oak with an added complication and in a reduced size, you suddenly pull that balance, that blending towards the end of elegance and dressiness and formality a little more. And the 25594 is exactly that kind of reference. Much as I like the blue dial, that night blue dial that has been iconic since the beginning of the design, I do appreciate the white dial on this, although a black dial could be quite beautiful and would prove a great occasion for us to call it a night owl. But this is just a beautiful watch, and one particular detail that the white dial really allows to shine is the perfect combination of those heat blued hands for the day and the date with the night sky that forms the background of that moon phase indicator. It's really a special piece. And this is exactly where it is. I'm sure it's still for sale here. There you go. Right there. And of course, I've talked about this before, but for the when Gérald Janta came up with this 8-bolt design for the octagonal bezel with those hexagonal bolts. They were first prototyped in the same metal, which was at the time stainless steel. And the prototypes that were being set in salt water at Le Brassus, the headquarters, actually were corroding. So stainless steel was not so stainless after all. So they have changed into using white gold for those bolts, which is a practice that has stayed. So speaking of the way that things are coordinating, that's resonance between the night blue sky and the heat blued hands is also in a way replicated between the patinated white gold bolts and the gilt details on the dial that are especially visible, of course, between the stars and the moon itself. Love those stars, by the way. Amazing. As if I needed any more reason to like this particular watch, but great, great piece. They have also, I have kind of made a little list here because you can choose pieces that you're obsessed with. They have that watch that I have been talking about for a while. This is the Jarajanta chronograph, Chronosport, and it's a piece that comes in a bunch of different dial colors. I think each has something unique to offer. The blue makes this very sporty and exciting. The black one, I think, it gives the best contrast to the chronograph registers, which are actually executed in mother of pearl. And this white one is very playful and elegant at once. And this is a watch that's like a nice cross between like Chopard's Mille Miglia and Breguet's Type 20, right? Which I think is actually a lovely hybrid, and it also has something unique of its own between the big date display at 12 and the sword hands. It's a very lovely watch to wear on an everyday basis. This is kind of a generic strap that they put it on. A lot of times it comes on, oh, okay, my bad. It's actually a Jarajanta leather strap, but a lot of times I've seen this on either a rubber strap or a very interesting and quite unique stainless steel matching bracelet. But that's a great watch and a very decent pricing as well at around $4,000. You can easily find this for in so many different variations and even for cheaper, even in a place like Chrono 24. So this is not a particularly great price, but again, very competitive. Very interesting watch that you certainly won't find in these backpack dealers that have been polluting the watch market for quite some time. There you go. This is the Chronosport. This is one that I really like. This is I highlighted this because it's a ladies president, right? In that 26 millimeter configuration, which is not as popular in the recent time. But this is one of my favorite Datejust dials over time. It's kind of like a houndstooth pattern on the dial that I really love. You can find these in Datejusts, in men's Datejust in their classic sizing in 36 millimeters. But I just wanted to showcase this particular dial for you. And this ladies president model I've always found very charming and very exciting. You have it here in Roman numerals and also set with brilliant cut diamonds. Basically a 26 millimeter Datejust on a president bracelet. And it's a very elegant and striking watch. Could have been cheaper. You know, the pricing here is not that enticing. But I wanted you to at least glimpse at this wonderful world of variety in Datejust and day-date dials that are not only about Stella dials, or surely there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of exciting and beautiful stuff in those Stella dials. The semi-precious stone dials are great, but they're also wooden dials and these sorts of different designs and finishes as well. Hey, JB, nice to see you, man. Mm. Cartier Pasha seems to be um, generally very attractively priced these days in whatever shape or form I see it. This is again kind of a banged up piece, and it does come on the integrated bracelet, which you may or may not like. You know, I kind of like the bracelet on this one actually. But again, it's a very, you know, it's kind of a segmenting design, as they say in the marketing language when it comes to these things. It's very divisive. It's maybe too italicized, and I'm using it in the broadest possible meaning of the word. Maybe a little too much in so many ways. But between the lozenge hands and the juxtaposition of elements that are very, again, very elegant and dressy and also in a way very aggressive on the other hand, and sporty, I think gives the watch a very different kind of appeal. And it's one of those pieces, you know, where you can for a couple of $1,000 get a very decent watch that is Cartier, that has something unique going on, and that belongs to that tradition of design that's really one of a kind in horological history. I don't think there is ever another designer of watches who is going to be so important. I don't think there ever was. I don't think there ever will be another person like Gerard Janta. And to be sure, there have been many other significant designers of watches whose names we know and we don't know, like Gilbert Albert, like Jörg Haschek, like so many others. But the Janta's own legacy will always stand apart and has so far stood the test of time. And we're not only talking about the Royal Oak, whose 50th anniversary we just celebrated. That's half a century if you are not so good at maths. The Nautilus is coming up on its 50th anniversary as well. On the other hand, the Paul router, the Universal Genève Paul router, was in fact designed by Gerard Janta, who was barely 23, 24 years old, and it was released in 1954. So that's a watch actually that's about to celebrate its 70th anniversary quite soon. So to own a watch that's designed by Gerald Janta is, I think, something that makes this whole experience worth it. And even that particular design of the crown, that's like a flask. It's so endearing. There's something very weird and very appealing about this guy's designs. He certainly had a sense of humor. He's at once someone who took everything that he did so seriously, yet he didn't take himself so seriously that he lost its head, so to speak. He never took his eye off the ball. For example, this chronograph, right? Very beautiful, very distinctive. At 36 millimeters, it's not something that, a sizing that you can find often. It comes on the bracelet in stainless steel. And here it's less than 3,000, and you can possibly find it for even less in the, elsewhere in the secondary market. Again, this is one that has a silver dial. I have posted a similar watch in salmon dial very recently. In my shorts. Pause. Not those shorts, YouTube shorts. And again, it's a very elegant watch, like a dress watch with an edge, with a little bit of an extra flare up its sleeve. It's just one of the best deals in the market, and that we used to say about the entire range of Cartier watches when it came to vintage examples from the 90s, and even that special era of CP, Cartier Paris Collection Privée. That even those watches, even that period of Cartier Paris private collection was quite a deal. Now, of course, more and more people woke up to it, and some of the CP watches especially, but Cartier watches in general, have gained a lot of value. And in fact, Cartier became these days the number 2 in Swiss watches, period, right? In terms of the sheer number of units they have sold and the revenue that they have generated over the last year. The Octo is, of course, another Gerald Janta design that Bulgari iterated in the Octo Finissimo, focusing on ultra-thin movements. But this is an earlier version of the Octo that they call Solo Tempo, which is interesting because it's not just tempo, but also dates. But anyway, so this is that version of the design that has a centrally deployed seconds hand and a self-winding movement with a full rotor rather than the micro rotor. And that's usually an incredible deal as well on the secondary markets. Although arguably, that is if you like the watch, the Octofinissimo itself on the secondary markets these days coming all the way down to 10,000 for steel and a little more for the titanium versions. It's, you know, it's certainly a significant alternative to everything else that exists out there without replicating their designs, right? One thing that I genuinely love about both the Bulgari Octofinissimo and the Alangonzone Odysseus is the fact that they are not trying to look like something they're not. They're not trying to look like the Royal Oak. They're not trying to look like the Nautilus. They're their own thing. Love it or hate it, they bring something new to the table, and they are almost immediately recognizable as belonging to the line to the current lineup, but also historical legacy of those two brands, right? Of course, you can see it in the Lange Odysseus in the day dates expression, right? Which after the Zeitwerk is perhaps the most immediate invocation of that stage clock, of that 5-minute clock on the Dresden Opera House. And when it comes to, of course, the Octofinissimo, you have the octagonal shape that is multiplied and that's layered on the case of the watch. And that's something, of course, that's recognizably Jarrah-Janta. I think I need some water, and I also need to plug my computer in. So let me just do that very quickly, and I will be right back. Okay, we are back. So I was talking about some of the watches and the kinds of models that represent a target of opportunity in today's market. I have been, as you know, this is basically the official watch of the channel, as some have said in the past. And I have been telling you that it's only a matter of time that the Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris perpetual calendar falls into the secondary market, where it will be a good deal. Now, this will be even more the case soon. When it was introduced, I think the watch listed for $32,500. These days, I believe it retails for $33,000. And already in the secondary market, you can find examples that take $5,000 off for you. And I think this has a long way to come off. And it's really a very, very good watch. It kind of is its own category, right? Of course, there are better perpetual calendars out there, not maybe in the manner of their complication, because this is a perpetual calendar module that builds on the legacy of Kurt Klaus. So it is something that can be manipulated with a single pusher, and therefore is almost a perfect match for a sports watch, right? Less points to compromise the integrity of the case, especially relevant for a dive watch. But of course, there are sports watches that are also perpetual calendars. Audemars Piguet makes a lot of them in the Royal Oak series. So does Vacheron Constantin in the Overseas series. And they're usually ultra thin. And as it happens, a lot of times they are also in precious metal, but simply very, very expensive. We're talking six figures expensive, low six figures expensive. So for the Polaris to be already offered in low 30s in list price and quickly heading in the direction of 25,000 in the secondary markets, it's already a great deal. But more importantly, it's really something unique as a stainless steel diver watch that has a perpetual calendar as well. And it comes on a full bracelet. It also has the option of a rubber band that is just a great complement for this sort of watch. There we go. And again, you have the internal rotational bezel for timing. You have the day, date, month, the 4-digit year, moon phase indicator that is for the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere with that pointer. And then basically you have an AM PM indicator here, which more than just serving as a utilitarian thing, it's really a safety thing as well, because since in these sorts of complicated movements, you probably don't want to be manipulating things with the pusher between, let's put it as conservatively as possible, between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. You should really not be tinkering with the pusher to change anything. So you just have a great watch at a fraction of what the competitors really sell. Similar looking and similarly functioning pieces, and by and large, the Polaris is is an extremely underrated piece. Another piece, because it's a segmenting design that offers a great deal, is of course the Parmigiano Fleurier Calpa, and it has a model that's called hebdomadaire, which means weekly in France, in French. This is a term they use also for, say, weekly magazines too. Anyway, I guess Michel Parmigiani should be a fan of the Beatles as well, because this actually has an 8-day power reserve, which is indicated in that little crescent right under 12 o'clock, which is expressed as a Breguet numeral. The hands are, in a way, beautiful alpha hands that are skeletonized. And you also have a small seconds within which you have a date window. And the most beautiful thing is, of course, one of the rare tonneau-shaped calibers in the business, 8-day power reserve, as we mentioned it, and with the kind of anglage that truly is worth a much higher price point, especially for what these pieces sell for in the secondary market. Less than $9,000 now. Another great deal and another segmenting design, in a way, the forgotten integrated bracelet watch, which is exactly the model where Daniel Roth doubles down on what is already a divisive case shape, that is the ellipsocurvex, right? That doubled ellipse case shape. It's not enough that the ellipse is doubled in the case. He also puts it in rows of 4 on the integrated bracelet as well. This is the model that is the simple and most distilled expression of Daniel Roth's watchmaking art. It is named after the famous town of Le Sentier, which is where Jaeger-LeCoultre is based, which is very close to where Audemars Piguet is based in Le Brassus. And Daniel Roth established his own workshop there as well. And this was his dress watch. This was kind of the core of his lineup when he was at the forefront of independent watchmaking. Black dial, the simplest expression of this watch. Again, the white date indicator allows for maximum legibility. I'm not a huge fan of date windows, but hey, it is what it is. And the Roman numerals make this watch look dressier than it would have been in other expressions, perhaps. And of course, it's a guilloche dial with those gadroons that are quite distinctive of, say, the Dupont lighters, for example. So it's a gorgeous decoration, kind of a forgotten integrated bracelet watch that doubles down on the Ellipsocurvex case design. And that bracelet is sometimes affectionately called the Lego bracelet by some. I can certainly see what they mean by that. In either case, again, it's a very divisive design, but if you like it, this is a kind of watch that you can get at a very attractive price point, both on the integrated bracelet and on a leather band too. But here's another example on the integrated bracelet that is simply delightful. You know, you can see that silvered dial that gives the watch a very muted, kind of subtly elegant look. Great contrast with those heat blued hands, some minimal luminous material, and a great monotone but not monotonous piece. Again, relatively attractive in terms of its pricing on the secondary market. Another interesting piece, of course, is a watch that we talked about again on this channel. I think it's Roger Dubuis Easy Diver is certainly worth looking at. If you like, again, if you like something that is at once both a head turner and a head scratcher, a watch that has a very distinctive case shape, again, something that is not exactly round nor a square or a rectangle. The Roger Dubuis Sympathie case shape, namely, you ought to take a look at the Easy Diver. It is a very big watch. It is an absolute unit at 46 millimeters. It has this kind of cobblestone dial design that is executed here in that copper / salmon shade, kind of champagne, but with an added pinkish hue. Of course, has a 60-minute bezel, generous amounts of lume on a rubber strap that's integrated in a very interesting way into the lugs, which are three-pronged and bolted in. But most importantly, you have a movement and case that carries the hallmark of Geneva. So you have something that at once looked like a very aggressive and larger-than-life sports watch, but also a watch that carries the hallmark of Geneva, which is one of the highest grades of achievement and finish in Swiss watchmaking. Libro Grande says Charlie Hebdo. Yes, that's right. That was the cartoon magazine which was unfortunately the target of that heinous attack some years back. You're absolutely right. That's a very specific use of the hebdomadaire, for sure. And you can find this Roger Dubuis Easy Diver in a number of different configurations. You have it as a chronograph, and that is also a Geneva seal movement that's built on the famous Lemania CH27 base. And you have a tourbillon, which is an even bigger watch, but again, a beautiful piece. And even that is at a relatively attractive pricing. Again, none of this is cheap by any stretch of imagination, but for the kind of watch you are getting, is quite a good deal indeed. Now, the next piece that I really like, both because of its aesthetic, but also because of the price point, is the Parmigiano Fleurier Tonda GT. This is a chronograph with an annual calendar, of course, because you have the big dates at 12 o'clock and the month in the running seconds here at 3 o'clock. And this is a limited edition of some sort, which I'm sure is quite possibly quite difficult to get from an authorized dealer, but you can find it in the secondary markets, and it is actually very attractively priced. Stainless steel on that rubber band that somehow reflects the decoration, the guilloche decoration of the center of the dial. You of course have this radial guilloche too before you reach the periphery, which is for chronograph seconds. And the watch itself has a look of like a beautiful dashboard of an older car. And this piece is right around $15,000, which, you know, if you could get a Daytona just by walking into an authorized dealer or with a reasonable wait time, maybe would be less attractive. But hey, here you are getting actually something more than a Daytona, and in a configuration that they don't offer, that Rolex does not offer in stainless steel, right? In stainless steel, you can't get it on Oyster Flex. You can't get it on any version of a rubber band. And you can't get it also with date and the month either, right? You don't have that sort of functionality when it comes to Rolex. And here you have something that's incredibly legible, incredibly functional and utilitarian, and something that's also quite distinguished as well, because you have that extra bit of shine, extra bit of glimmer with the wait a second. Um, right, and in this is the secondary market, right? Priced at 15,000, accepting offers, and right now the watch is around 20,000, of course, on the as a retail price. And again, it's not it doesn't make or break the watch for me personally, but the fact that you have an exhibition case back with a 22 carats rotor, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I would never buy a watch just because it has an exhibition case back or a full gold rotor, but when it does, it's not such a bad thing. Um, Another kind of incredible deal, in a way, is the titanium IWC Ingenieur at the brand was producing in some numbers about 15, almost 20 years ago now. And it's a 42 millimeter piece. So it's a largish watch that looks perhaps even larger with that integrated bracelet look. Another Jarajanta design, also a thick watch as well. So this is something that wears quite large, but also feels very light because it is fully in titanium. As you can see, IWC has had a long-standing collaboration, long-standing engagement with Mercedes AMG for the longest time. It didn't start with the collaboration between IWC and the Petronas Formula One team. And again, here you have an integrated bracelet sports watch in titanium, again, that brings something different to the table, but that also has some sort of legacy and a price point that is very hard to beat. Now let's see what else do we have. That's an interesting value proposition. I save up these things once every so often so I can offer you something different, something new. And in either case, we can start dipping into the Sotheby's auction preview, which is coming up quite soon. Oh, there we have it. This is also a cool watch. Now we are going at we are looking at something here that's a very different price segment, but really a lot of history for the money. If you for any collection of time only Patek Philippe watches, this would be a great jump starter because it has a lot of great aspects to it, a lot of historical importance to it that is simply hard to beat. Because you have a kind of waterproof case, as you can see with that screw down case back. You have, it's a reference 2526, right? Historically, the first self-winding Calatrava. You have a beautiful enamel dial, right? Which is in and of itself something that makes a Patek Philippe watch very attractive. And you have the double signage. You have the Patek Philippe Geneva, and then Serpico e Laino, which was, and I think still is, an important Venezuelan jeweler based in Caracas. And again, of all Patek Philippe watches that you can get, this is not so bad as, again, as a as being one of the most historically important Calatravas that has that very much desired double signed dial in enamel, and the importance of being the first self-winding Calatrava. Speaking of prestige brands that offer signature complications, here you have a Breguet perpetual calendar. This is a 37 millimeter case, but the way that Breguet cases are designed, they are perfectly round and have these extended lugs. They wear actually bigger. And here you have a beautiful dress watch in white gold Again, wonderfully decorated by hand guilloché, Breguet frosting for the hours track, the secret signatures at 12 o'clock, as you can see, leap year indicator, day, month, moon phase indicator at 6, and finally the retrograde date that fans out for the upper half of the center dial. And of course, retrograde here means that at the beginning of the month, this serpentine date indicator snaps back to the first of the month. It's really a gorgeous watch. Very aesthetically pleasing, easy to wear because of its proportions, because of how thin and discreet it can be. Look at that beautiful rotor that's decorated by a barleycorn guilloché. Reference 3787, Breguet perpetual calendar in white gold. And it's less than $18,000, 17 and a half, in fact. Again, it's still a lot of money to spend on a watch, right? But for a perpetual calendar from Breguet, that sounds like a decent deal. Okay, enough free purchase advice. I think we can return to the regularly scheduled programming, which is the auction preview for Sotheby's fine watches, which is an auction that will open on January 26th in Hong Kong. So 4 days left until the opening of the bidding. And the first piece is actually a 5961, which is the annual calendar flyback chronograph with a diamond bezel. And here it is executed in platinum, and it is quite a striking watch indeed. As a rule of thumb, you divide things by 8, of course. But as you can see here, the estimated value of this watch is $100,000 to $200,000, roughly speaking. You have a 5968, which is an extra jumbo Aquanaut chronograph with a 60-minute counter at 6 o'clock. In white gold with a gradient blue dial with that globescape pattern and a matching rubber band that sits flush at the case and gives the watch that sort of integrated look. It's quite striking, and this is $75,000 to $100,000 of an estimated value. 703 is the 5164, which is 5164A, I should say. In fact, it is the stainless steel Aquanaut travel time. Pointer date at 6 o'clock. The day and night indicators for both local time and home time. And you have the pushers on the left side of the case band that allows you to jump hours back and forth for that skeletonized hand. And that was a piece which is expected to fetch a result between $60,000 to $90,000, roughly speaking. You have the 5167R at lot 4, and that's estimated to fetch somewhere between $57.5 to $80,000. You have a very limited edition of Alangontöne Zeitwerk, which is a decimal strike chiming watch with the hammers and the gong proudly displayed on the face of the watch, expressed in Alangontöne's proprietary honey gold here, which they preserve oftentimes for these sorts of limited editions. And lot number 5 is expected to fetch a price between 75 to 100,000 US dollars. Again, I'm going to send the link into the chat. So if you would like to draw my attention to any particular watches, if you want me to really home in a lot out of sequence, something I skipped, something that's ahead of me, feel free to do it. And if you send it with a super chat, I'll be more than happy to go into it in some detail. This is the Langematik Perpetual in 706, Langematik Perpetual, I should say. Again, it is a limited edition expressed in honey gold. It's a Saxomat, so that early version of the self-winding Lange movement that has an oversized micro rotor. Quite a beautiful piece. Full gold rotor, decorated, and it has an added platinum weight as well. Of course, all the decorations that you would expect from the Glashütte ebbing of the bridges to the perlage on the main plates, to the freehand engraving of the balance cock, to the blued screws. All the decorative elements are there, of course. This is one of 100 pieces in a honey gold case. You have a self-winding Alangontöne perpetual calendar that is very uniquely Lange with the big date at 12 o'clock. And a very distinctive micro rotor movement in the back. Lot 6 is expected to fetch something between 75 to 100,000 US dollars. At lot 8, you have FB Jaune Chronomètre Sovereign from 2008 in rose gold with a white dial. Very simple, very elegant. The pricing seems a little too much for me. I don't know if it will sell or not, but the estimated value is 57,500 to 77,000 US dollars. But you have a very crisp and beautiful watch. Again, one of the purest expressions of François-Paul Jean's watchmaking art in this pink gold chronomètre Sovereign from 2008. At lot 10, you have a very unique two-tone Patek Philippe watch. Patek Philippe does not do a lot of men's watches in two-tone in modern time. And when they do, it is something unique. It is something that commands a particular place and particular price in their catalog, like the 5980. The Nautilus flyback chronograph in two-tone. Nevertheless, they did have this 5712, the Nautilus moon phase, in a unique expression of two-tone, which is white gold and pink gold on a leather strap. Which is really fascinating, if you ask me. I think the strap itself is two-tone as well, though I don't see it in this particular photography. But the watch is very distinctive. It is unique enough, I think, to be collectible. And I would wonder how this fares elsewhere on the secondary market. But here, the estimated value is somewhere between $64,000 to $90,000 for lot 10. At number 15, you have pink gold Rolex Daytona Cosmograph 116515. It has that chocolate sunburst dial. That's also a racing dial with these oversized Arabic numerals. Of course, the watch has that ceramic bezel too, which can make it quite attractive to some, but it's pre-oyster flex, so comes on a leather band. Rolex alligator strap in this case. And The estimated value is 33,000 to 41,000 US dollars, roughly. '16 is the same piece, this time with a champagne dial, still on the leather strap. And that's 30,000 to 46,000 US dollars. '17 is white gold on a matching white gold bracelet and an anthracite dial. We're talking about the Rolex Cosmograph Daytona with the reference number 116509. I love the red accents on the chronograph registers on this dial. The watch looks like it is in great condition, and the estimated value is $25,000 to $38,000. Very attractive. A similar piece in the panda configuration of the racing dial, oversized Arabic numerals, off-white backgrounds with black chronograph registers, red accents. The estimated value is $20,000 to $30,000. Very beautiful, very attractive, and possibly at also an attractive price point. At lot 24, we have a watch of which we examined an example just in the earlier show in the Antiquorum auction. That was lot 134 from the Antiquorum auction on January 19th in Monaco, which sold for 16,000 euros. And in this case, at lot 24, we have Rolex day date with the reference number 18238, yellow gold with dégradé green dial, fumé or smoked green dial from the mid-90s, the double quickset Rolex day date, which allows you to quickly cycle back and forth for both the day and the dates. And here, the estimate is somewhere between $25,000 to $38,000 for a watch that sold for 16 just a few days ago in Monaco for another auction house. Just to show you the diversity of results that can, and estimations and valuations that can come relatively close to each other in time. Before that, we have a white gold one with a white gold bezel and a fumé blue dial or a dégradé blue dial. Reference number 18049. And that has the same estimated value, 25 to 38. Number 30 is a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar, reference 5059 in yellow gold with a leap year indicator, and an Italian expression of the month and day, moon phase at 6 o'clock, and the retrograde date in a downward facing crescent at the center of the dial. And this piece is estimated to fetch a value somewhere between $25,000 to $38,000. And of course, it has a hinged case back, as you can see here, that you can pop open to glimpse at the movement through a sapphire display case back. A Patek Philippe gondola at lot 31 from 1913. Guilloche decoration at the center of the dial. Exploded Arabic numerals, very distinctive. Branded chronometro gondola as well. Unique case shape. Fantastic history. And you have a yellow gold Patek Philippe dress watch from the pre-war era. And here it is listed with an estimated value of 30 to 45,000 US dollars, roughly. Number 32 is another Patek Philippe perpetual calendar, this time encased in a white gold tonneau shape. Breguet hands, Breguet numerals. Very balanced piece with the moon phase at 6 o'clock lodged in that pointer date. On the case back, you have the beautiful micro rotor caliber. With the Geneva seal, of course. Since the watch is from 2003. The black dial, I think, is a great contrast to the white gold case and really makes the watch look so strong, I think, in that unique case shape too. So you have a piece that's striking both front and back with that micro rotor that powers a perpetual calendar movement, and with that black dial that has its furniture in the distinctive appeal of Breguet numerals and hands, and a very balanced 3-register layout for the piece. Estimated value is 38 to 50,000 US dollars, roughly speaking. $34 is a two-tone expression of Patek Philippe's forgotten sports watch, the Neptune. I think this is a watch that's particularly appealing, at least to me, for its scale-like bracelet. It's a fantastic bracelet. This is the reference 5080, which is a time and date version, Roman numerals in quarters, the date indicator at 3 o'clock. and this sort of inner railroad track for the seconds. A fantastic piece, I think, very unique and quite striking. And for lot 34, we have an estimated value of $15,000 to $30,000. The Patek Philippe Neptune. We have the reduced sized Nautilus from roughly the turn of the last century, or this century rather, at lot 40. From 1999, you have a Nautilus 3800 with a black dial, and Roman numerals that are filled with luminous material, although that should be tritium and long expired by now. This is the reduced size, again, to remind you. Lot 740 has an estimated value of 38 to 64,000 US dollars. Please hit the like button. It's the least you can do, and it does help keep the lights on for me in some way or form. It at least gives me some increased exposure. At lot 42, we have the Vacheron Constantin Mercator, which has, of course, these cloisonné enamel drawings of aspects of the world map to honor that German-Dutch geographer by the name Mercator. And you have this caliper like expression, which is very wonderful, of hours and minutes. The hands are shaped like a caliper, and it's also by retrograde. So at the top of the hour, this minute hand snaps back to 0, and at noon and midnight, the hour hand snaps back to 1 as well. It's a beautiful piece, very distinctly Vacheron Constantin Mercator reference 43050 from roughly year 1995 at lot 42. It is expected to fetch somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000. At lot 43, you have a piece from the Collection Privée Cartier Paris, that CPCP decade, CPCP era. This is a tortue in the perpetual calendar configuration. A very, very beautiful and balanced design. I think these sorts of cases really accommodate the perpetual calendar well. In this case, you have both the month and leap year indicator at 12, the 24-hour indicator at 6 o'clock, a pointer date at 3 o'clock, and the day of the week at 9. The dial is guilloche decorated with printed Roman numerals on white, and you have the hidden signature of Cartier at 7 o'clock, and a real cabochon, of course, an actual sapphire cabochon that is set on the crown as well. And this particular example, here you can see the movement with that double wishbone logo emphasized by the open working on the rotor weight. And you have the presentation case that also serves as a winder. This was reference 266 CPCP Tortue Perpetual Calendar from roughly year 2005. The estimated value of lot 43 is $25,000 to $38,000. I'm on the second page now, but if you would like to draw my attention to something that I skipped or a lot that is a few pages ahead, feel free to send me a message. Feel free to send me a super chat and draw my attention to it. And I will be more than happy to home in to that lot and talk about the watch in some historical and horological detail. So feel free to interrupt also if you have any other watch-related questions or anything else as well. At 7:52, we have actually a Santos 100. The Santos took a while to come into mass production, but it was actually a piece designed by Louis Cartier for his friend, the gentleman pilot Santos Dumont, in the early years of the 20th century, namely 1904. So in 2004, Cartier actually came up with Santos 100, which is a very distinctive iteration of the watch, here in the two-tone execution with a design that seems to integrate the leather strap into the case. The bezel that harkens back to the rivets that you could see on the plates of those early planes is actually in yellow gold here, whereas everything else is stainless steel. You have heat blued sword hands and the second hand, of course, and a distinctive Cartier dial, white dial with Roman numerals, railroad track at the center of the dial, and the secret signature at 7 o'clock. Lot 52 is offered without reserve, so the bidding will start at $1, but the estimated value is $5,000 to $7,500 US. At lot 53, you have Santos, namely Santos Galbe, meaning curved, right? It's I think it's easier to understand what they mean next to the Santos 100s. Galbe is a version of the Santos that's a little more stylized, that's a little more italicized, that's a little more curved, as the French word has it. Reference 1566 is significantly smaller. That Santos 100 that you have just seen, and it's a piece that was released to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Cartier brand. And this piece is actually also executed in two-tone, which means that bezel is in yellow gold, and the estimated value here is 2,500 to 5,000 US dollars. And with the same estimate there, you have another Santos, this time a reference 1577B in 18 karat yellow gold, and that has an estimate of $2,500 to $5,000 as well. Speaking of Cartier, and as you know, Cartier has just refreshed their Tank Française design, which is the iteration of the tank that is designed to be worn on the bracelets. And here you have basically 4 lots back to back that have different examples and different sizes of that older 1996 design of the Tank Française. They're interesting, to say the least, again in that $2,500, $5,000 estimated value range, in two-tone, with different kinds of complications, with different sizes. And finally, at 58, you have a very diminutive version of it in holy stainless steel. Yasha says the Neptune is forgotten for a reason. By all means. I think it's a nice bracelet. It's a nice bracelet, I'll say that. You have the reverser tribute to 1931 at lot 59. These were very hot for minutes, but again, since the values were not that sustainable at that level of the market, they're coming down. This is a relatively recent piece from the last year that is offered on that matching Casafaliano style strap in green as well. And for lot 59, the estimated value is 7,500 to 10,000 US dollars, roughly speaking. At lot 62, you have a platinum Vacheron Constantin dress watch. It's a reference 4217. The dial has some spottiness, some humidity damage. It's an interesting offering, I think. A beautiful dress watch, although aged a little prematurely from 1980. You might say that's ironic. Speaking of, spoken by someone who has aged prematurely and who is himself from mid 80s or 84 rather. But hey, look, I mean, a platinum dress watch is, I think, supposed to be very clean and sleek. So unless that is something that Vacheron Constantin can fix and replace quite quickly and cheaply, allowing you to keep the original dial, this watch may be rather useless, but otherwise it can be quite a great deal to get lot 62, which is a platinum Vacheron Constantin dress watch for 6,000 to 10,000 US dollars of estimated value. 36 millimeters of a case diameter, very wearable. So a very interesting piece. Lot 63 is an earlier generation of the overseas, as you can see, with the quartz movement, champagne dial, and it's priced to sell at 6 to 9,000 US dollars. This was reference 72040. You have at lot 65 the older generation of Vacheron Constantin overseas dual time, reference 47450. And that is listed at 12,500 to 25,000 US dollars, roughly. That is the estimated value. Oh, a lot of interesting people suddenly. Hey, JJ's Watch Hangout. Nice to see you, man. Yeah, by all means. By all means, send them over. Just send them my link. Send them my link. I don't, again, I don't engage in any wars, in any kind of antagonism, but I also don't want to be officially associated to any other kind of platform. The dungeon, for the better or worse, is included in that. But if they want to send my link and encourage people to come over, by all means, and anyone who comes over is more than welcome to be on my panel as well. And thank you, JJ. Thank you for being here. And thank you, General Saad. Yes, I would love the dungeon people to come over. Send them my link, and that will be beautiful as well. Fries, matte black, handmade beaver tail strap. I don't even know what that is, man. But thank you. Helmets on, boys. General Saad is here. Big Meech. Hey, man. Salute to you as well. Yasha says the face of the underappreciated artist, large on the screen, never disappoints. Who are we talking about? Jesus. Big Meat says, Lord wants money now. He can barely afford to keep the lights on. No lies detected. No lies detected, Meech. Hey, baby girl. How are you doing? Good morning. Good morning. Z-Man says, where am I? You are on the best watch channel in this side of the Mississippi. So, Andreas, you're welcome as well. We're talking about the Sotheby's Hong Kong auction that is coming up at the end of the month. We talked about a lot of the interesting listings. Here is the link to the auction. And if you want to direct my attention to any of the lots, feel free to send it in with a super chat with the lot number, and I'll be more than happy to pay attention to it. And also, by the way, I was mostly interested in a Moodstream, so to speak. So if you jump on the panel and you want to talk about something, especially something related to watches, god damn, the world's going down, I think, finally. Sorry, guys. New York or Los Angeles, there's always some sort of alarm, something going up in fire. It's not my responsibility. I'm so sorry. Camel Toe 4.99. Thank you so much for the super chat, especially because of that message. Israel forever indeed. Thank you so much. Glad to be here and glad to see you, Andreas. Thank you for being here. And he says, at concessions, and Lord is ready to forgive your sins for a super chat. Hey, I can't forgive anyone's sins. I can enable you to sin further, and that will be free of charge. Cheers. We are previewing the auction that is coming up at the end of the month in Hong Kong for Sotheby's. And this is Roger Dupuis, La Monégasque, which is one of their chronograph designs. It's the one that runs on a micro rotor rather than the one that is based on the Lemania CH27 base, which is a hand-wound piece. It's quite an interesting piece, La Monégasque. It's much more futuristic than the other earlier offerings of the brand. You have a tachometer on the chapter ring, which may or may not be very legible, but at least it is inscribed in red. So it gives that much of a pop. You have running seconds at 9 o'clock and a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock. Of course, a centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand completes the picture. I really like this case designed by Roger Dupuis. Again, it's a good cross between a round case and a square case with very distinctive lugs as well. I think it works particularly well for a chronograph. And if you like this sportier expression of it, that's a little bit oversized as well as 43 millimeters, this could be an interesting offering by Roger Dupuis. And the reference 86-300 here at lot 80 or 780 is listed at an estimated value of 6,000 to 9,000 US dollars roughly. Of course, the actual value is expressed in Hong Kong dollars, but we are taking a little bit of a shortcut here. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. And Dumport reminds everyone to upvote. OG Baby Girl tells me to look at my PayPal. So let's see. Thank you already. I don't even know. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, OG Baby Girl. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for your contribution. All right. So we looked at lot 80, which was Roger Dupuis Monégasque. We have at 82 the currently discontinued version of the Audemars Piguet Jumbo, Royal Oak Jumbo, reference 15202, which, of course, with the discontinuation, became the last reference of the Royal Oak that was built around the original caliber, Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber 920, which is, of course, 2121. 2121 was replaced by 7121 in the 50th anniversary edition that carried over now to year 2023 with the reference number 16202. These are the most ubiquitous reference, of course, now of the Royal Oak Jumbo with an exhibition case back. There is, of course, the original reference 5402, which has a closed case back. There are some transitional and jubilee references in between, namely 14802, which was released in the 20th anniversary of the design. But those are in extremely limited numbers. So for that reason, they can have even a bigger premium. So unless you can get 16202 at retail, this really seems to be it if you're looking for something with a touch of modern and with an exhibition case back when it comes to the Royal Oak Jumbo. And lot 82 is an example of that from year 2014. It is listed with an estimate of 48,000 to 66,000 US dollars. Let me catch up with the chat a little bit. Don't ban this. Hey, I will never ban this. Thank you. This lovely to see you, man. And Nick, thank you for the nice words. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the upvotes. I really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, feel free to jump on. Angelic Slayer, Big Meech, Nicholas, These all of you people, please feel free to join the conversation. I'm also happy to just, skip this over and just shoot the shit with you guys. Yeah, so the Jumbo is listed with an estimated value of $48,500 to $66,000. Big Meech says currently tied up with Mrs. Meech. There's no Mrs. Meech. So take your hands out of your shorts, man. It's not cool. We have at 86 Royal Oak Offshore from 1999, an early enough example. This is a reference 77151. It's basically a ladies' version of the Royal Oak Offshore in a small size, but with an automatic caliber. And it is listed for around 4,000 to 7,500 US dollars. That was lot 86. Feel free again to flip through a lot of the lots and feel free to send in any of the lots that I should look at with a super chat and the number. I'll certainly help you. Saad says you are more inclined towards Audemars Piguet. Hey, I might not like the contemporary direction of the brand too much, but I'm a huge fan of AP. I might not have any in my collection now, but I'm dead set on getting a Royal Oak next. I mean, I need to really work my money up, but it will get there. 6 shekel. Thank you so much. Love from the land of milk and honey. Thank you. Watch Nicholas is the best. I appreciate you, and I appreciate Watch Nicholas as well. Big Me says I'm paid up for the hour and I'm getting my money's worth. And then don't waste your time on my stream, man. Just enjoy whatever it is that you're enjoying there. At lot 93, you have Gérald Charles, which is basically the brand that Gérald Janta set up after selling the rights to the name Shaharjanta in year 2000. This is a piece called Maestro, a pink gold chronograph with mother of pearl accents for the chronograph registers there, a very distinctive case shape. These are not very popular, but for that reason, they're also on the secondary market, perhaps a decent deal. If you're actually into that design, you can take your chances, especially when something like this is offered at no reserve, which means it will start at $1, and the estimate is $1,200 to $2,500. So it's pretty appealing for that reason. At lots 794, you have basically a piece that's called Zenit El Primero Baroque, with this engraved and open-worked, at least partly open-worked dial. It's a triple date with moon phase chronograph. It's a triple date chronograph with the moon phase, partially open-worked dial. Very interesting species, to be honest. Very interesting specimen, I should say, in yellow gold with double-stepped bezel on the case, stepped lugs as well. It's a very, very beautiful piece and has this open case back with a fully skeletonized and engraved rotor that has an italicized Zenith inscription on it as well. The estimated value of lot 94 is $7,500 to $10,000 US. At 95, we were just looking at this watch on the rubber band, and here it is in full stainless steel with matching bracelets. It's a limited edition of 200, as we mentioned. This is the Tonda GT chronograph annual calendar with those orange accents on a black guilloche dial. Lot 95 is expected to fetch finally a price of a hammer price of 20 to 25,000 US. Let's see if it sells. At lot 96, we have Frank Müller reference RMS9, which is a chiming watch, a minute repeater with a minute repeating indication right here. A fantastic looking caliber on the back. You can see the gong right here and the two hammers too, with these distinctive bridges that reminds you of the architecture of a pocket watch movement. A beautiful piece with an estimated value of 25,000 to 40,000 US. Andreas, you have to tell me the number of the lot. I don't know if is it listed in this auction? Am I missing it? Thank you, baby girl. I appreciate you. yeah, if there's one, there's a lot like that in this. I don't know. I know that in the Antiquorum, a 5172 just sold, but that was a 5172G. Well, it was listed, but it did not sell. That was a 5172G with the blue dial. So there you go for this. And it's an important reference point because the starting bid was 50,000 euro. And it's a 5172G, as you see, the same white gold chronograph, except with the earlier blue dial. Full set, mint condition, and it did not sell at $50,000. And again, you're talking about a watch that is listed currently at retail for 80,000 plus. So, you know, you really have to wonder where the watch market is when you see things like this. Very popular watch. Someone like you came onto a watch channel and asked about it, and you see it didn't even sell. Going back, by the way, to lot 12, we were talking about this watch, if you guys remember. This is Patek's take on the regulator dial. They used to have the reference 5235 as 5235G in white gold with brushed gray, silvery gray dial. Now they have the 5235R in the lineup of their annual calendar with a regulator dial expression. In pink gold with this charcoal dial, pink gold accents on the dial. A beautiful piece. Micro rotor movement. Honestly, fantastic piece, unique piece. And lot 12 has an estimated value of $25,000 to $38,000. Sorry if I'm going a little too quickly. We are now on the third page, which has a lot of jewelry pieces, but lots 817, which is a reduced size Royal Oak from the mid-90s. This is 14790 BA in yellow gold with the matching champagne dial. Centrally deployed seconds hand. This is 36 millimeters in diameter, whereas the jumbo was 39 millimeters and continues to be. This is a fantastic watch that in steel and two-tone still offers an interesting value proposition. And here in full gold, it's very distinct, very elegant, perhaps a great alternative. Speaking of my AP bias, General Saad, perhaps this is a great alternative to a Rolex Day-Date. And there you have it with an estimated value of $35,000 to $40,000. But let's balance things out because we have a beautiful and unique example of Rolex Day-Date Oyster quartz in lot 822 This is the version of the Rolex day date that operates with Rolex's version of the quartz movement. It has, as you see, an integrated expression of the president bracelets and a wonderful wooden dial. I think you would classify this as burlwood, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a great little watch, fantastic condition. And lot 822 is expected to fetch a price between $15,000 to $23,000. Oh,
Oh,
how are you doing, boss?
hey, my man, Chief, the
I
Chief
put-
of Chief. Ah, you're drinking wine. I'm drinking coffee to wake up.
Well, I'm drinking wine to fall asleep.
Okay. If we continue like this, uh, you will fall asleep, and I will wake up.
I like this youthful, dynamic look for the professor. It's I
Good
like.
morning. Good morning to everybody.
How's
Sad.
it, how's it going? Let's take a little bit of a break from the auction
Sure,
mess.
sure.
How are you doing, Professor?
How's it going? I'm okay. I'm okay. Um, January is a difficult month because you're trying to wake up from the liturgy of the holidays,
Hmm.
um, and then you hit reality. Reality. Um, yeah, things seem to be okay. I tell people that as long as they're healthy, that's the most important bit in their lives. At
Absolutely.
least for me. At least for me.
And you're healthy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Then what else do we need, right?
yeah.
Health.
Then you can buy watches. Well, the thing we need is, of course, money to buy watches.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's important. That's also important.
Yeah,
I agree with that as well. But yeah, we need to be
yeah,
alive first, as you mentioned. So we need to be healthy. We need to be alive, and then we can move on with less pressing concerns.
yeah.
Like,
Everything else is doable. Everything else is doable. My son is taking some very big exam tomorrow, and it's critical that he does well. But I told him, listen, my man, in life, the younger you are, the better off you are in adjusting for mistakes that you make. The older you are, the more difficult it becomes for you to adjust. Um, so I told him, don't worry. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you move on and you try your best.
well, I
And that's
will.
the thing in life.
I'll put it in perspective for my young friend there. You can also succeed in all those exams and get good grades your entire life, be a good student, and still end up running a live stream on YouTube. So
And have as a guest a professor who succeeded in all these exams for a very long time. You know.
so being a good student and overachieving in school is sometimes overrated. um, it's it's good. It does
Yeah.
open up a lot of doors for you, but it's only a solid foundation. You need to build something on it. It doesn't give you anything, and that should also be a lesson to a lot of students. I'm sure the young man is not one of them, who go into these kinds of institutions just for certification, just to buy a diploma basically without putting in the work. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I sit on these committees, on these admission committees,
Mm,
um, and people try, but it's not really, it's not the make or break point if they go into a great university or not. It's really what makes a person advance in life is really grit, perseverance, stubbornness, and willingness to fail and move on, continue, at least in business. It doesn't really matter if you went to the Ivy Leagues. I mean, it does uh, until you get through the door if you're applying for a bank job. Otherwise, I've seen very successful people who did not go to any of these universities. And I've seen very successful people who went to universities who turned out to be thieves, criminals, very bad people. In the news, you must have read about this girl, Theranos, who founded this company and
right.
embezzled, you know, where did she go? Stanford, right? Um, and then Mr. Sam Fried Bankman, whatever his name is, the FTX guy, who went to MIT. And then, of course, you have the none other than the infamous Enron CEO who went to Harvard. So, it doesn't mean anything. In my book, I don't look at CVs actually. I check them out. Honestly, when I receive CVs for interviews and jobs, I don't even look at them. I ask them for a personal interview and I talk to the person.
This is, by the way, I genuinely do appreciate this American Dad look. I have to again. I'm impressed. The sweatshirt, the baseball cap, the
Oh yeah,
GM Master watch. It's great.
and the pinky ring. Not to forget my
Oh, the signet ring. Yeah,
yes, of course, the establishment. You can't. This,
nice.
this this is more important than the watch actually. The ring.
But it's good. You know. Um,
Yeah, it gets you through the club. And then if
I
you don't have
suppose
money, it's okay. The other guy pays.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. Um,
Back to watches, Lord. I
yes.
was um, I was telling a friend he wants to buy a Patek, and I told him, listen, yeah, it's good to get into that world as well, but I said, I'm a little bit biased, not so much about the brand as much as what you're trying to prove. The signification, and this is more of a Francophile word than an English one. But what does it signify if you're wearing a Patek? I said to him, um, and he said to me, no, I have enough money to buy 20, 30, 40,000 dollars watch from Patek. And I said to him, for Patek, you need to go in the Grand Complication to start looking at quality and all these things. He said to me, "Oh, you're biased. You don't like Patek. You're telling me these things." And I said, "No, for the same amount of money, you should look at other brands which produce very good quality um, mechanisms." And so, we started a debate, him and I just wanted to share the thought um, because it is for me. And again, I could be very wrong. Professor is always wrong in looking at these things from a wealth aspect. I said to him, "Yes, you have money, but you're not in that stratospheric category."
Before we move on to that, I do want to
Yeah,
underline something you said. very early on, and it is really important to this channel in particular, right? Because for me, again, I look at mechanical watches not in this rarefied realm of investments. Of course, I'm a collector myself, but I also don't see them in vacuum. I really look at them as part of a lifestyle. And for that, the question you asked is all important, right? What are you trying to say with the watch that you're wearing? What what does that watch tell you? What does it mean for you? And what does it mean for others who may or may not notice it? And this is a question that a lot of us may not think about actively, but it is implicitly at the heart of every decision we make about these watches. Because, yes, there are those among us who are obsessed with hacking seconds and chronometry and all these things. But even that has a metaphysical component, right? Even that obsession with precision and accuracy in mechanical watches is tinged with a romanticism, or perhaps even more romanticism than more shallow demands from a mechanical watch, because mechanical watches have been bested in terms of accuracy and precision for quite some time now, for almost half a century, you might say, right? Since the advent of quartz movements. So what does it mean, right? Sometimes it's good to delve into that question, because, like you said, maybe there's a better answer than getting a Patek Philippe, right? For example, you want, uh, you want a platinum watch, and you know why you want a platinum watch, but not everyone asks that question, and maybe they start with, "Hey, I really like that platinum day date." Why do you like that platinum day date? Why do you want to get a Patek watch? Why do you want to get a chronograph? Why do you want a Rolex Submariner? I think it's worthy to go through these thought exercises, because you can either save yourself time and embarrassment, or money, because maybe you don't need a platinum watch, maybe you don't need a Patek to satisfy yourself and say what you need to say to the world with that watch. So why does your friend want a Patek watch? Because he wants to say that he can buy something expensive?
He has Rolex, and he said, I'm tired with Rolex. It's the same brand, the Cyclops watch. Um, I have the Pepsi, the old Coke, the Submariner, the steel models. But Patek, he says, it's above, it's above um, Rolex. And I tell him, but in order to get into that category, that's my opinion, right? I said to him, you need to be coughing up a lot of money, above the 150,000, to get the quality that you want to get, right? And Patek is at that level, above the 150, 200,000 mark. Yes, an excellent brand, not value brand. And he was offended. He said to me, well, why shouldn't why I don't deserve the 70,000, the 60,000? And I told him, no, you deserve it. But, in order to start talking about quality Patek, you can get a Calatrava, but I said to him, I'm sorry, but the 30, 35,000 you're going to cough up, you can buy a beautiful day date,
It
you know.
it it depends. I mean, I was just showing, for interesting deals, right? If you're a connoisseur of of uh, of certain kinds of watches, right? If you do actually like a Calatrava, um, and it is something that you want to wear as a dress watch, you have this, for example, right? the reference 2526, which is exactly in that range that you're talking about. Classic yellow gold Calatrava. In fact, it is historically the first self-winding reference. Beautiful enamel dial, dolphin hands, those sharp index markers that I think go really well with those hands. Small seconds, double signed, right? Patek Philippe Geneva, Serpico y Laino Caracas. And you can get this for right around $33,000. And it's a beautiful piece. It's around 36 millimeters as well. So I mean, I think it's the perfect size for a dress watch, honestly, and that's a lot of quality. But if your friend is obsessed with contemporary prestige watches, I do have to agree with you. There is very little you can get from Patek, even at list price, something quality at this range. It has either deteriorated in quality and is a very average product for the price that doesn't really give you a lot of value, unless you're interested in the hype, unless you're interested in carrying that name on the dial. There's not much that is interesting with Patek.
Yeah, he mentioned I said something along these lines of what you said, and he mentioned, well, I like this. He started mentioning the reference numbers, and I said, okay, this is interesting. Now my friend is quoting. I know he's doing it to show his sophistication, right? His knowledge, and this is another trait that you see amongst the recent people who have entered the watch market. Um, he said to me, "Oh, I want to get 5270." So he said to me, I said to him, "Okay, 5270. Yeah, that's a nice watch. You'll spend $180,000. But if you have this kind of money, why don't you invest it in something else, which is equally good, if not better?" And I think that's where people are missing it because they insist, no, the Patek 5270 or the 5271 and so forth. Once they start being so convinced of their own myth, it becomes difficult to unconvince them.
Right. I mean, look, again, at that segment, both Patek and many other brands, I mean, if you get into the $250,000 territory, basically, there's so much that you can buy. So I don't even know what to recommend at that point. Again, you have to almost psychoanalyze the person when they're starting to spend that much money on watches and really figure out what it is that they want from this life. Otherwise, you of course you can spend any amount of money, and the 50, I mean, and the 5270s is a great watch. I mean, what else would you want, right? You were talking about Grand Complication. That's it. It is a perpetual calendar chronograph. They have all sorts of iterations, but let's say the pink gold one on a matching beads of rice bracelet with a black dial. It's a very elegant watch. It's a very interesting watch. And hey, I mean,
I agree.
it's
I agree.
I don't have many bad things to say about it, but like you said, there's so much else in that segment, and I'm not even again, I'm a watch person, so I'm not going to say, why don't you invest it in something else? Because I think, again, it's why look at it as an investment to begin with?
Oh, an investment? No, if we start talking about investments, I mean, my opinion is, please don't buy a watch.
Yeah.
I mean, just go and buy something else, an asset of tangible kind.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, ultimately, I mean, again, you need to go back.
If it's the right time to buy stocks, but buy something else. Don't buy a 5270. I mean, if you want to buy a 5270, don't buy any of
Professor, I think your connection is going in and out, so you can't really hear me. You're there? Can you hear me? I can't hear you anymore. Can you hear me? No, I can't hear you.
I'll
Okay, now I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Yeah, look, I mean, it's again, at any segment. Okay, the professor is back. I was just saying, we're not looking at it as an investment, but as a sort of emotional and monetary investment in watches. I think at any segment, I always advise people to be thoughtful, always take a lot of time to do the necessary research, always insist that they be patient as well. But especially when you go into six figures and more, especially in this day and age, where you have so many independents that have already made their mark and that are already so recognizable that they at least retain their value, right? Which again, it doesn't have to be at the forefront of your concerns or considerations, but it is a factor. I understand that. I respect that. But in this horological landscape, it's not a no-brainer that one would go to Patek. You might as well go to Voutilainen. You might as well go to MBNF if that's your taste. You might as well go to Recep Recep'i. You might as well go to Ferdinand Berthoud. You might as well go to Beauvais. Why not? There is so much. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. It's nothing. But I don't think it's such a given anymore, right? I think
exactly.
I think it's something there. Like, the first question asked was actually the most penetrating. Why do you want Patek? It's not because you are biased. I'm biased too. Patek is by far not my favorite brand, right? There are a few things that I like about them nowadays, and there's a handful of things that I really appreciate about Patek historically. But in year 2023, by all means, I am biased against Patek in the same way I'm biased against Audemars Piguet, in the same way I'm even biased a little bit against Rolex. But even from an objective perspective, we are not constrained anymore by the so-called big four. There's an entire world out there. If you have $250,000 to spend on watches or on a single watch, why go Patek? Broaden your horizons. There's so much out there. Go to Kari Voutilainen. Go to F.P. Jean. Go to Ferdinand Berthoud. Go to Greubel Forsey. there's an entire world. But again, that those are maybe still for um, for us watch nerds. Perhaps the average person, even when they know a thing or two about watches, still
Yes,
wants to buy into that luxury, buy into that brand, buy into that recognizability.
I absolutely. I think this is it, Lord. I think. Let me talk about myself. Somebody who is, let's define from a wealth perspective where I sit, right? I'm a middle class person. A middle class person could certainly dream about Patek Philippe, and they could even buy it. Um, but it's out of my league, right? Personally. So this is the answer to my friend. And if you do want to make a statement, there are many ways you can make a statement. This is one of many if you are of that class. But very wealthy people don't really care about watches. It's the segment between the super wealthy and those who are trying to indicate their wealth, that are trying to display, the car, the watch, and all of that stuff that go with it. Hello, are you there? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. I am.
Ah, you heard me. The other thing I told my friend is, so he got completely confused. So I finished the conversation by saying to him that you shouldn't buy a 5270 of the current iterations. You should try and get a steel, um, a steel, a steel one. And he said to me, "Has there been a 5270 steel?" I said, "There has been, but there is only one. If you can get that one, then you don't need to collect any more watches." So he's out looking for the steel one.
But you might as well have, sent him to a wild goose chase, so to speak. I mean, the stories about the 1518 in stainless steel, of which there are apparently only four examples, at least four that are
Yes,
accounted for.
exactly,
There's
exactly.
a whole story, actually, that I found very charming. I read
Mm.
this in Hodinki years and years ago, when of
When they were independent,
what independent?
when they were still independent, not
Oh, you mean,
part of.
no, not when they were still not part of LVMH. Yes, you're right. Um, good one. Um, that's a very good point. It's almost as good as me calling, talking about watches of Swaziland. But let's go back to this this idea. So they were talking about how all of the four stainless steel examples of 1518, which is again a model that Patek introduced in 1941, and it is the first perpetual calendar chronograph that was put in serial production as a wristwatch of all things. Very kind of an micro engineering marvel at that time, that you could squeeze in that sort of complication in that combination into a 36 millimeter case, or 35 in fact. So in stainless steel there are only four examples, and in fact in all metals you have less than 300 examples to begin with. But apparently the famous dealer Davide Parmigiani actually sold at one point all four of these examples. It has gone through him. And one of them, actually, at a time where things were even less transparent and more murky, someone from Geneva called him once saying, "We just received a 1518 for service." And apparently it was from the family of an industrialist who passed away under interesting circumstances in Turkey. So Davide Parmigiani had a meeting with the family of this Turkish industrialist in Geneva when they came to pick up this watch, and he convinced them to sell it to him, and he managed to get it. And I'm sure at a song, considering how rare and precious these things are. And nowadays, I don't even know. I mean, a 1518 in steel, we are probably talking about $3-4 million, possibly more.
No. You have a question, Lord. Somebody is asking you a question. It's a good one. I don't know who is Charles Saatchi. Is he related to Saatchi and Saatchi?
Oh yes, yeah.
The advertising tycoon.
He's one of the founders who have found that advertising agency. Charles Saatchi is, he's kind of my folk in the sense that he's a Baghdad-born Jewish person.
Yeah, he's Iraqi. Yeah,
that's right. And his last name, people would be interested to know, means clockmaker, of course. Sa'a.
Yeah.
Saatchi. So
yeah, that's right.
Chiche is something Arabic takes sometimes from Turkish and it usually indicates a profession, but it can be just a way of indicating relation. For example, Palestinians who grow up in refugee camps are called mukhayyamji, as in a derogatory manner usually, but it's a term that they took upon themselves as well as the refugee camp people, right? But anyway, so Saatchi means clockmaker, and as you know, when Patek was celebrating his 175th anniversary, they held an exhibition under the patronage of Saatchi in London. And they produced a few interesting commemorative models to for the occasion. Let's put it like this. But when it comes to what watch Charles Saatchi actually wears himself, I have no clue. Actually. But I will show you guys a few examples of the Patek Philippe 175th anniversary collection that was made for the Saatchi exhibition. Like I think I may have showed actually one of them on this channel before. I think this was, yep, there we go. I've showed this before. It's a 3940 that Patek actually produced in um, let me see. In 2000 and oh my God, what is going on? Whew, there we go. It's a 37 millimeter perpetual calendar in white gold with a salmon dial, made for the Saatchi Gallery exhibition for the 175th anniversary. Which is, of course, year 2014. But as you know, since they were using the older movements, it still carries the Geneva seal. Unusual for that time period, of course. But yeah, so there were a lot of interesting watches like that, like unique dials that are never found in that configuration. And I'm assuming Patek must have some sort of connection to the Saatchi family. Um, to have held this exhibition in their gallery and to have produced this sort of extremely limited edition watches for that occasion. But I don't know what Charles Saatchi wears. And oh my God, Nigella Lawson. Ah, man, don't tempt me, Satan. Come on, this that's my dream woman, man. She's a brunette. She's smashing hot. She cooks. What else would you want from life? Do you know Nigella Lawson? Are you a fan, Professor?
I'm sure I've seen her. I mean, not in flesh, but not. Let me see who is Nigella Lawson. Food writer. Ah, that one. Yes, yes. Hmm.
It's yeah. Mm, very good. Um, yes, that is his ex-wife. I think he has since updated.
A younger one, because this is
Probably.
used.
Well, you know, uh, I like secondhand watches, as you know. So it's
I love secondhand watches. In fact, with her culinary skills, I would love to start from, the cakes and move on to the main courses. Now, whether it's main course or intercourse, I don't know, but main course is fine for me too.
nice.
Yeah. And she's Oxford educated. My goodness. So you get the intellect and the course.
Well, we
And
were
if,
just talking about how it doesn't really matter actually, but
oh, I forgot. So you stick to make sure you have money, and she does the cooking. Um, because with her wealth, she's quite wealthy.
I'm
With her cooking books and BBC stuff, from what I'm reading, she's quite wealthy. So she will end up buying you, me, or somebody a Patek. But very interesting, very nice.
Mookie
Cutie.
Mookie says, did someone say intercourse?
No, no, we said course. Course, intercourse, it's linked. Yeah, she was married to another guy and he died in 2001, and then she married Charles Saatchi. So interesting. Very good.
Yeah, so you have convinced your friend to do something else, or you just sent him on a wild go- go-
Wild witch hunt, goose hunt.
okay.
Um, no, I told him, listen, you need to play it carefully, and uh, I told him Patek is out of your league. But people are stubborn. I said, why don't you settle for other brands? Chapek is interesting, and I did refer him to that. He looked at it. He said to me, no, 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 this is like a Concorde. I said, well, obviously you're an idiot on top of ignorant. Um, I told him, and then I said to him, "Look, why don't you look at Lange and plenty of examples there." But people are people; they do their own thing.
Yeah, I think, Professor, again, it's like it's like saying to someone, who wants to get uh, an Hermes Birkin bag, or
Good point.
Louis Vuitton, you are trying to direct them to say, hey, why don't you go to your local leather maker who makes, actually great bags, nicely styled and with good quality and perhaps better quality. But it's not the same, right? I mean, this watch, for example, stainless steel with a very unique guilloche dial that's made by Metallem, right? Who produces for a lot of brands that we know and don't know. Um, it is a wonderful 7-day power reserve watch with day of the week indicator right there, running seconds. Again, gorgeous dial, very striking watch, beautiful movement too, on the other end, on the back. And of course, it is a so-called Phoenix brand. It's been revived by an independent group of investors and enthusiasts, even though it takes the name of Patek's first partner. You can make the same argument about any brand that's older than 100 years old today. Like, which brand has remained the same or remained with the same owners since it was established, right? Which brand preserved character from that time until now?
Hmm.
So you can tell him to get, um, you know, at list price, because it's already quite attractive for what they provide. You can try to steer him into getting Lange, because that's as much quality, um, at and maybe even better quality, and increasingly good brand recognizability as well, but at a fraction of the price and with a very strong aesthetic. Again, a lot of the Lange watches, and you can't say this about Patek, at least not anymore. You can scrub the name of that brand from the dial of the watch, and you can show it to someone who knows a thing or two about the brand. They will immediately identify it as Lange. You know, so you can't say that. You can't say that about many brands out there. Not a lot of watch brands have their recognizable brand aesthetic, recognizable visual language like Lange does. So,
I agree. Lord, I need to jump into another call.
no worries, Professor.
I need to bid you and your audience short-term adieu, and I will see you very soon again.
Yes, Professor. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your call, and I will
Thank you.
see
Thank you.
you again soon.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
All right. yeah, I mean, CP would be great, but Duimpucht, I think we have established already that this friend is interested in instant recognizability and a certain kind of prestige that you can only really associate with brands like Patek or Audemars Piguet in their own way, right? CP is still too niche, right? You need to, if you want to impress someone with a watch that is from Collection Privée, Cartier Paris, that person needs to know a thing or two about watches. So it's still a limited group. Clearly, this friend is not interested in that. Listen, it's 1 o'clock already. I think I can go for a little longer, and I will. And I want to send this link again, and I'm gonna send the StreamYard link too. But if you want to direct my attention to any of the watches listed here, feel free to send the lot number with a super chat, and I will deep dive into that particular watch. I will home in and talk about it in horological and historical detail. Hit the like button in either case. It really does help. And otherwise, feel free to sit back and listen. We were looking at lot 824, which is a yellow gold Rolex day date that's served up as a head only. It has a white Buckley dial, meaning printed Roman numerals. Reference 1803. And this is a piece roughly from year 1969. It has an estimated value of $10,000 to $15,000. Lot 826, a white gold Rolex day date on a president bracelet with salmon-like Salomon, as the professor used to say, like dial, maybe a champagne dial simply, fluted bezel, of course. It's in a pretty good, crisp condition. Diamond sets at the factory, and the estimated value is $18,000 to $25,000, roughly US dollars. At lot 835, you have yellow gold, 18 karat yellow gold Rolex day date with a bark finish on the bezel and on the center links of the president bracelets. And that has an estimated value of $10,000 to $15,000. At lot 844, you have Cartier Pasha from year 2000. This is a reference 2693. It's in pink gold, in 32 millimeters in diameter, so it's a little bit of a lady size watch. Guilloche dial, diamond sets with Arabic numbers at the quarters, and a date indicator at 4.5 o'clock. This is listed with an estimated value of $5,000 to $7,500. At 8:55, we have Breguet Classique from 1995 with a very distinctive sapphire cabochon. It's a small watch, right? I think the official um, sizing is even less than 34 millimeters. As I mentioned, because of the design, these were large, but this is still a pretty diminutive sizing, so buyer beware. Reference 3210 in yellow gold. Beautiful hand guilloche dial, Roman numerals, Breguet hands, small seconds, and a closed case back in this particular case. And we have an estimated value of 5 to 10,000. At lot 858, we have a pair of pink gold Patek Philippe Nautilus cufflinks with an estimated value of $2,000 to $2,500. 859, we have a Mickey Mouse watch. Fantasy retro Mickey Mouse with retrograde minutes. It's a jump hour watch, as you know. Here you have an expression of it in two-tone, stainless steel and yellow gold, with a green tinted mother of pearl dial with a kind of golf theme at 36 millimeter. It's a very wearable piece, and the estimated value is 10 to 15,000 US dollars. That was lot number 859 with his Gérard Janta Fantasy Retro Mickey Mouse watch in two-tone. 860, similar watch. This time it's a Donald Duck and in full stainless steel. It's a much smaller piece though, and with a very distinctive mother of pearl dial, jump hour, retrograde minutes that are indicated with Donald Duck's baseball bat. And that piece has an estimated price of $5,000 to $7,500 US dollars. That was lot 860. At lots 863, we have nipple dial Rolex root beer, the 4-digit reference 1675/3 in two-tone. As you can see, the luminous material on the GMT hand has fallen off, unfortunately, but these kinds of things do happen from watches from that time period. And on its original bracelets, this watch is valued at 12,750 to 20,000 US dollars. That was lot 863, a Rolex GMT Master nipple dial root beer, reference 1675/3. At 865, you have a Meters First Rolex Submariner. It comes on a folded link bracelet. And lot 865 is expected to realize a final hammer price between $6,000 to $10,000. Beautiful expression of a historic diver watch from the 60s at lot 865. At lots 868 and 869, you have the Rolex Cosmograph Daytona in its first self-winding iteration. As you know, Rolex introduced Daytona with an integrated automatic chronograph movement in 1988. And for the next 12 years until year 2000, it was a movement that was built on the base of the legendary Zenit El Primero caliber 400 that powered the Rolex Daytona. Rolex called it 4030, which until it was upgraded to 4130 was the movement beating inside Rolex's iconic chronograph. And as you know, in many ways, this piece is preferable, you might say, to the 4130 based pieces because of its perfect visual balance. As you can see, you can draw a straight line that runs through 3 o'clock and the 2 registers all the way through 9 o'clock, and you can do the same from 12 to 6 here as well. Perfect crosshairs, and this is almost towards the end of the production. The Panda version with the white dial and chronograph registers that have black outer rings. 868 is expected to realize a final hammer price between 25,000 to 40,000 US dollars, and the black dial version of the same watch from roughly the same time period is expected to realize a price between 23 to 30,000 dollars. At 876, we have perhaps one of the best versions of the so-called root beer and the so-called nipple dial. Beautifully faded burgundy / mocha bezel insert there. The dial itself, it has faded into kind of a plum shade, applied coronets of a GMT master in the 4-digit, again 1675/8 here on a matching Jubilee bracelet, which I think is a little more becoming, a little more fitting for the root beer. And lot 876 is expected to fetch somewhere between 30,000 to 46,000 US dollars. At lots 879, you have an early example of a 50th anniversary Rolex Submariner, reference 16610LV for Lunette Verte. You can tell this is an early example of the so-called Kermit because of the flat 4 on the bezel, roughly from year 2003. It does actually come with the original guarantee and instruction manual, as well as the presentation box. So you have a little more than just the bezel to certify the watch. And lots 879 has an estimated value of 23,000 to 30,000 US dollars, roughly speaking. Another meters first Rolex sub. In this case, it is valued a little more highly, I should say. And it has an estimated value of 12.5 to 25,000 US dollars. Late 60s, 4-digit Submariner. You have the transitional root beer at 881 from year 1983. This is the 5-digit reference, which has a quick set date, but a printed coronet at 12 o'clock, a sunburst chocolate brown dial. My watch, basically, I have one of these. I adore it. I have it with both bezel inserts, actually. And it is a watch that looks gorgeous on the two-tone Jubilee bracelets, but also simply on a leather strap as well. And in this case, it is served with no reserve, so bidding will start at the lowest possible price, but the estimated value here is somewhere between 7,500 to 15,000 US dollars for lot 881, which is a Rolex GMT Master root beer with a nipple dial in the transitional reference 16753. Yeah, I love the 50th anniversary Submariner, and they're actually over the generations. There are so many variations of that bezel color. You can even collect all the variations itself. But joking aside, you know, they all have their own appeal if you're interested in the color specifically. Again, if you want me to take a look at any of the references, any of the lots that I've passed, or if you want me to look ahead and pay particular attention to any models, feel free to super chat the lot number of any of the watches here, and I will be happy to pay special attention to them. At lot 894, we have an open face Patek pocket watch. It's a platinum piece with small seconds, Breguet numerals, Breguet hands, very elegant watch that comes with its fob, and it is also engraved on the case back. Very charming, and it has an estimated value of $7,500 to $11,500 US dollars. That is lot number 894. At lots 924, we have Chanel's J12. It's a ceramic piece in white ceramic that has a diamond set bezel and again diamond set center links on the bracelet. This is from year 2008. Quartz movement, 34 millimeter in case diameter, and lot 924 is valued at $5,000 to $7,500. At 926, we have a Bulgari Serpenti in stainless steel, 2017. It's valued at $4,000 to $6,000 US dollars, roughly speaking. And 927 is 35 millimeter Rolex Cellini with a mother of pearl dial, small seconds. That is valued, and it is expected to fetch something between 7,500 to 10,000 US dollars. At 935, we have a LUC Chopard chronometer, 1937. So you have a chronometer certified Chopard watch in limited edition stainless steel, applied Roman numerals with the date indicator at 6 o'clock. This is a 42 millimeter piece. Very distinctive, with a skeletonized full rotor on the back. It's quite different from most other calibers of LUC Chopard, which uses their signature manufacturer micro rotor caliber for the most part. This model is called Twist because it switches the crown from its traditional 3 o'clock placement to 4. I love the red accents against the anthracite dial. It's a beautiful watch, a little too big for my taste, but still very interesting and a very attractive price point because this is valued at $2,000 to $2,500 US dollars. You have at lot 936 le réveil le réveil du Tsar, which is a dual time alarm wristwatch by Breguet. This is a piece that's almost 15 years old by now. You have a secondary time zone at 3 o'clock, a 24-hour indicator at 9 o'clock, a date at 6 o'clock, a power reserve for the watch at 6 o'clock as well, and also a power reserve for the alarm function. It's It's a white gold piece at 40 millimeters. It's quite wearable still, and lot 936 is expected to fetch somewhere between 12,500 to 20,000 US dollars. All right, the last stretch. So if you want to ask any questions related to these watches or any other watch related questions, feel free to send them via super chats, or you can always click one of those links to find other ways to support the channel, to contribute to its cause, which is to talk watches. At 9:45, we have Daniel Roth Metropolitan 24 cities. This is a dual time watch with a day and night indication. Gorgeous guilloche dial, Salomon piece, salmon dial. It's a gorgeous piece, a wonderful GMT watch that has those 24 cities in its wheel at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and a day and night indicator. It's very playful and classy at the same time, and the domed crystal gives it a very interesting profile on the wrist, and it's quite a value proposition as well, because here at this auction, lot 945 is expected to fetch somewhere between 5,000 to 7,500 US dollars. At 9:55, we have a Jaeger-LeCoultre Géographique it is in yellow gold with a matching 7-row beads of rice bracelet. It is a world time watch with date, power reserve, 24-hour indicator from mid-90s. It's a very unique piece. It's a very beautiful piece, quality that is worthy of the watchmaker's watchmaker. It's at 37.5 diameter, so very universally wearable piece. And it is valued somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000 US dollars. This is a lot. This is lot number 955, Jaeger-LeCoultre Géographique world timer in yellow gold on a matching bracelet. At lot 956, we have white gold Rolex day dates from the 4-digit era, roughly from year 1960, a reference 1803, in white gold, once again with an Arabic day wheel and Eastern Arabic numerals that indicate the dates. It is head only, so to speak. It doesn't come on a bracelet, and this piece is valued at 10 to 15,000 US dollars. We also have 4-digit date just there, a 1603, with that beautiful pie pan dial in the linen decoration, beautifully monochrome piece on a matching Jubilee bracelet. and that fantastic bezel as well, also in stainless steel. And this piece is expected to fetch an amount 3,000 to 4,000 US dollars, an amount worth of 3,000 to 4,000. And there is before it at lot 957, again, the head of another white gold Rolex day date reference 1803 that has an estimated value of $6,000 to $10,000, roughly from year 1973. Two interesting oyster quartzes back to back in two-tone. $961 has an estimated value of 3,000 to 4,000 US dollars. 962 has an estimated value of 5,000 to 7,500 US dollars. At 980, you have a Piaget Altiplano with a south-winding movement that was retailed by Tiffany and Company, and that is signed, therefore, at 6 o'clock by them as well. An ultra-thin white gold dress watch from 1970. With an estimated value of 4,000 to 6,000 US dollars at lot 980. It is a Piaget Altiplano reference 12603. At 985, you have a rare bird, an interesting example of Bulgari's previous iteration of the integrated bracelet watch. It was called Diagono. This is the chronograph version of that. Has that distinctive Roman coin inspired Bulgari bezel inscription. And this has a caliber 303. I think everything is in stainless steel, except for the bezel, which is in white gold, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it's an interesting watch. But certainly not something that has stood the test of time, so to speak. I think the caliber 303 is probably based on something supplied by Frédéric Piguet, which is usually the case at this level, unless they're using something based on Zenit, which they usually proudly advertised. At 988, you have Hoya reissue of an Altavia that uses this brown panda color scheme, a kind of silvered dial with brown chronograph registers, maroon bezel inserts for a 12-hour counter, a stainless steel limited edition Altavia in 42 millimeters from year 2018, made expressly for the United Arab Emirates. This piece is valued at 5,000 to 7,500 US dollars, roughly speaking. The very last stretch, guys. If you want to squeeze in any questions or anything similar, this is your last chance. Lot 990 is an interesting example of Universal Genève tricompax. I can't figure out this watch because on the one hand, it's very unique. On the other hand, they provide very little examples. I think the dial seems authentic and properly aged and patinated for the time. It's a multimeter scale because it has the tachometer, but also the telemeter for that first quarter of it. The expression of the moon phase is pretty unique, especially for that time. It's a different disc than what mine uses and what a lot of the examples I saw from 1940s do. The case itself is not very unique, but it's certainly one of the more rare examples from that time period. The crown, I thought, should be unsigned from that time period, but I'm not too sure. It's an interesting phenomenon there. And I don't know if he is still in the audience, but there we go. The chronograph bridge is actually signed Nicholas or Nicola, caliber 481. So it is a caliber that is used at that time period for these pieces. But quite frankly, I've never seen a chronograph bridge in a universal tricompax that has that sort of inscription. I don't know if it's some sort of custom work done after the fact or done at the factory for someone. I really don't know because they have also not provided any further information in the lot description, in the lot essay. But hey, it is an interesting example. Depending how things work out, this is a very interesting price anyways. It's offered at no reserve and with an estimated value of 2,500 to 5,000 US dollars. This could be an interesting buy at lots 990. You have back-to-back two reduced size self-winding Michael Schumacher Omega Speedmasters. The red one on the red, matching red strap, reference 3810, is valued at $2,500 to $5,000. The hippocampus on the case back is very romantic as well. You can't but love it. and 993 also is valued in the same way, $2,500 to $5,000. This one has a matching stainless steel bracelet and a yellow dial. An Omega Seamaster 300 Professional with this old school guilloche wave dial with a big triangle and sword hands from 2006 roughly. The estimate is again 2,500 to 5,000 US dollars for this Seamaster 300M Professional. And I'll present two more watches and then it's done for the day, unless someone squeezes in a question. Hit the like button on your way out. I appreciate you. If you want to support the channel, if you want to contribute to the channel, the links are there in the video description. They are indicated in the crawling ticker and pinned in the chats. This is lot 989. It is from Omega's museum collection. It is a 1938 Aviator Special Edition, a limited edition stainless steel watch from year 2000. Very beautifully contoured case. Looks very interesting. A pilot's watch that looks quite wearable on the wrist. Large Arabic numerals, small seconds, and finally also an inner, a rotational bezel that has an inner 12-hour indicator as well. A navigation watch, a pilot's watch that has been revived in 2000 in a limited edition by Omega. And the estimated value here is, again, 2,500 to 5,000 US dollars. That's lot 989. And finally, we go to lot 991, which is Longines Avigation oversized crown. It's a 40 millimeter single button chronograph. In which I think you can use the crown as a push piece to start, stop, and reset as well. Two registers with the date at 6 o'clock, cathedral hands, and chronograph hands that are gilt and therefore stand out against the black dial and its white accents. Of course, the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand is also white. And lot 991 is expected to fetch value between $2,500 to $5,000. And it does have this aesthetic of a conversion watch, right? Kind of this perfectly round case with lugs that look like soldered on the piece, that look like unnatural extensions, as if this were originally a pocket watch with that sort of oversized crown that was later on converted into a wristwatch, into a pilot's chronograph in this particular case. 991 is a Longines Navigation oversized crown chronograph, single button chronograph that has an estimated value of 2,500 to 5,000 US dollars. Thank you, everyone. This brings me to the end of my late show. I was with you earlier on the earlier show, the early show. We talked about the auction results from the Antiquorum in Monaco that took place in January 19. And now we did a preview of the Sotheby's Hong Kong auction that is going to take place in about 4 days. If you have learned anything from today's shows, if you have enjoyed them, please hit the like button. It really helps. It gives me a little bit of exposure. If you want to support the channel, all the information is here. It is in the crawling ticker, included in the video description, and pinned in the chat as well. I really, really appreciate you. I bid you farewell as we are fading into the night here in Los Angeles. It's almost 2 o'clock. If you have any last minute questions, I have 5 more minutes, so I will relax and wait. And in fact, maybe turn off the camera. But if you send something to the chat and I catch it, I will respond to it. If it's a super chat, it will make me super happy. But in either case, I salute you. I thank you for your presence and support, and encourage you to hit the like button, upvote the stream on the way out. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. It's dark now. It's time to go to sleep. Tomorrow, I hope to do a double shift again. We'll see how it turns out. But in either case, I'll miss you until then. I look forward to seeing you again, friends. Until then, I bid you adieu and take care. Goodbye.